And my guests today are Professor Rajesh Rajgopal from the School of International Studies, JNU, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Mr. Ninad Sheth, he's a senior journalist and expert on foreign affairs issues, and Dr. Rajiv Nayan, senior fellow with IDSA. Welcome to the program. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Nayan. Let's quickly first look at the Ireland visit and the developments that have happened there between India and Ireland. How crucial do you think was this visit, and what do you think are the highlights?
Yes, this visit was very crucial. Several issues were highlighted and flagged. But I consider the most important issue was Prime Minister's appeal to the Prime Minister of Ireland to support Indian case in nuclear suppliers group. Those who know the diplomacy of the membership of multilateral export control regime will tell you that Ireland and Austria are the two countries which are really coming in the way of India's membership to the at least two important regimes. One is nuclear suppliers group, and second is missile technology control regime. Although they are offering to the memberships of Australia group and Wassenaar arrangement, but India is more interested in joining the nuclear suppliers group because it is strategically more relevant for India. And India has already applied for the membership for MTCR, missile technology control regime, and Ireland is member of both the regimes. And as it is well known that even if a single country blocks or single country says no, then decision that any country cannot take can get the membership, because it operates on the principle of consensus, and one country can really do the damage. So that's why it is important. There are many other issues also which are generally very common for Indian Prime Minister's
agenda. But this you think was one of the crucial
that's why I think the very short visit was organized. There are other issues like technology cooperation. Again, support for permanent membership of India in United Nations Security Council. All these were highlighted. If you read the no joint statement was issued.
Right.
Only Prime Minister's speech is available.
Right.
And still we do not have the response of the Irish side. If you read all the newspapers of Ireland, you will find still they are not committed to that. They are happy. They are happy because India is a rising economy, and it is expected to do best, and it is going to rise fastest in the world. So in that way it is very relevant, and they are expecting that Ireland will come on the radar of India, a radar of Indian investment, a radar of Indian economy.
But that's a very interesting thing. In fact, Ambassador Sajjanhar, this has been rather the focus of this government, to bring in almost and engage with almost every country in this world. A visit by an Indian Prime Minister in a gap of like 60 years, what does it really say? What would you like to say about the diplomacy here?
I think what I will say is that the diplomacy that is being pursued by this government, and particularly by Prime Minister Modi, because he is conducting a hands-on approach as far as diplomacy and foreign policy is concerned. And I think to you and to the viewers it would be evident even before he had taken office how he had organized a meeting. He had invited all the SAARC leaders and the Prime Minister of Mauritius for his swearing-in ceremony. So it's a very, very hands-on approach, and I think he has found that two things. Number one, that India's increasing profile as far as international affairs is concerned, as far as world affairs is concerned, India has to reach out, has to proactively go out. It cannot be reactive. It cannot just stay there and wait for countries to come, for people to come, and it has to go out. And I think this is the sort of policy that he has been following. He went when even in Myanmar, when he went for the East Asia Summit, he went to Australia, and then he went to Fiji and invited all the Pacific Island countries. He invited all of them here also just last month to have a meeting with them. Now in October we are also going to have the Africa Forum Summit. Earlier we had Africa Forum Summit in 2008, 2011, those are only with 15 countries that were invited, both in Delhi in 2008 and in Addis Ababa in 2011. But this time we are inviting all the 54 members, all the 54 countries of Africa. So the attempt is basically to reach out to all of them. And I think another aspect that one needs to keep in mind is that economy has become a very, very significant component of this government's foreign policy. That is, use foreign policy for the domestic transformation of our economy, while of course preserving our basic values of secularism, pluralism, democracy, etc., etc. But basically focus on economics, focus on enhancing the economic strength of the country, because again, the Prime Minister has realized, the country has realized that when the economy has done well, outside powers have looked upon India with greater respect. If you would recall, in 2010, when immediately after the 2008 international economic crisis, all countries, United States, Europe, Japan, etc., they were going down. India was the only country which was recording growth rates of about 8.6% and so on and so forth. And you would recall that in 2010, within a span of 4 months, we had all the 5 P5 leaders trooping into India and trying to woo India. So I think economy is very, very important. And you would have also seen that after 2010, because of a variety of reasons, whether it was the scams or it was policy paralysis or it was the very deep dip in our economic growth, we came down to 5.7, we came down to 5.2, 4.8, 4.6. You saw that all international attention, it just dried away, because economic strength is very, very important. And now if you look at Ireland also, Ireland about 5 years ago till about 2010, it was like what Greece is today. But I think it has really been able to put itself, pull up its socks and from its bootstraps, and it has been able to recover through a policy of frugal expenditure. Of course, it had also, like Greece has gone through it. So it also had to take a lot of loan from the European Union.
So there
about
are
$85 billion.
As you say, there are economic reasons.
It is one of the strongest economies.
One of
in
the
Europe.
strongest
economies in Europe. So I think there is a great connect. Our people are there. Our diaspora are there.
I think that's a very critical aspect which you just talked about. Professor Rajagopalan, you see this approach, here one has to look at the way the Prime Minister of India is reaching out to these countries. There are certain things which you see as a common factor in usually all of his visits. First, of course, meeting with the Indian diaspora, which is something which has become in fact a kind of it is a ritual now. Every time whenever he's going to whichever country, that is happening. So that's one. And the fact that there is always this cultural and heritage part, this connection, which in fact also came out in his speech, in his address in Ireland. Do you think these are 2-3 important factors through which India can connect and pursue those ambitions, which could be economic in nature?
Yeah, I think that the Prime Minister particularly has been focusing on those aspects, and that's an important aspect, definitely. Excuse me. We have not paid enough attention to the vast numbers of Indian expatriates abroad, and that's definitely a connection, partly because we have expats all across the world. I mean, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in the United States, obviously. So there is a natural sort of advantage that we have, which we can exploit. But that part of it is, while it's an important aspect, we should also not lose sight of the fact that these visits are happening at a time when the world is, when you look at the headlines, the world is in quite a chaotic place.
Right.
I mean, the Middle East is in great chaos, East Asia is in great chaos. So there are lots of other important aspects also. I mean, I think the cultural aspect is important in terms of bilateral relations with specific countries, whether it is Ireland or the United States, and it goes some ways towards improving those specific bilateral issues. But today we are faced with a large number of global issues and regional issues, which I think we need to pay greater attention to. One of the sort of focuses of Prime Minister Modi's visits has been in terms of building up, as Ambassador pointed out, building up a large number of these specific relations with specific countries, improving the bilateral relations with a large number of countries.
That's right.
All the way from the South Pacific to Europe and Americas. That is all well and good, but there are these larger trends that are taking place that also one needs to pay some attention to. And my slight concern is that we are ignoring many of these trends that are happening in what we call our extended neighborhood, whether it is the Middle East or it is in East Asia. It's not that we're ignoring it completely, but that that seems to not be as much central to our concerns, I think, as I think it should be. South China